The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Open line, Mannin Line today, so the floor's yours, whatever you want to talk about. Call 66 1368. Text 166 177. WhatsApp 166 177. Email studio@manxradio.com. Of course, if you're driving or around the Isle of Man, do be aware the Manx Rally is taking place throughout today and tomorrow. Today, they're still around the Kerristal stage, including a stretch of the old Castletown Road. That's until 3 this afternoon, then 6 to 10:45 tonight. Until 3:15, roads around Pool Vash, including Fisher's Hill, will be affected. Until 20 to 4 this afternoon, the Tossaby stage, including the Braid Roundabout and the stretch of the road between St Mark's and Ballasalla. And until about 4:45, a stretch of the Mount Rule Road and the West Baldwin Road will be affected. This evening, from 6:30 till about 11:15, part of the Castletown Bypass and Fisher's Hill will be affected. From 7:20 tonight to midnight, roads around Ellerslie, including the Braid Roundabout, Archalagan, Erie Dam and Tossaby Road. And then from 8 o'clock tonight till about midnight, it's the Abbeyland stage, including a really interesting stage, including a stretch of the Mount Rule Road, and the roads around Baldwin and Abbeylands will be affected. It's the Manx Rally on today and tomorrow, and to everybody who's involved in that, we wish you very well. Hope you have fun, are successful, and more importantly, safe. Right, let's go to the lines now. Howard's with us. Hi, Howard.
Hello, Andy. Just following up on what's happening with Manx Care and the transfer of patients to the UK. For a number of years, 2 at the best, I think it was, my wife had, and still has, problems with her eyes, but we were going away to Aintree. And I say we, because although my wife was having the treatment, now I can't fault this in any way, they were excellent, even the transfers were first class, but it also meant that I went with her, which virtually doubled the cost of travel. We were there all day then, because we went out on the 7 o'clock flight in the morning, and of course we didn't get home till 9 at night. But that must have been a very expensive exercise, simply because, the last time we were there, my wife said to the consultant, it's a pity this couldn't be done on the island. It used to be. And the consultant, she said, yes, I'm already in discussions with Manx Care. And lo and behold, the very next appointment my wife got was here on the island. And where the eye clinic is and where the blood clinic at Nobles Hospital, this is where you go to. They have a separate little section down there. It's purpose set up for it. And the number of people I've noticed that go there to have this particular treatment, it's unbelievable. And if you think that each person that was going away, even half of the number of people going away had to have an escort, the cost must have been fairly prohibitive. And now having this on the island must be saving quite a considerable sum. All the information, various aspects of the treatment still come under the umbrella, the auspices of Aintree. The appointments, which my wife's got one for a couple of weeks' time, come from Aintree. So why, and Dr. Allison's right in this, why are Manx Care sending so many people off the island? I know there was a couple of friends of mine who suffered type 1 diabetes, and for this age-related macular degeneration, you have to have extra treatment, and that's why they were going away, but what the numbers were there. But when I look at the numbers up in Noble's Hospital, when my wife goes, I take her up, and we sit there in the waiting, and the number of people are there, and the same people each time, more or less, because it is an ongoing treatment. So for these to go out, and we're going out once every 5 weeks or so, when the treatment started, 5 or 6 weeks. And, of course, that was 2 of us going out, and all that went with it, the taxis, etc. So why not bring a lot more of this in-house instead of, well, I know it's going to sound like the old rant and rave, instead of employing people, why don't they employ more nursing staff and, consultants or otherwise? But all they seem to be going for now is bureaucratic office staff, diversity officers, and all sorts of things, or what we term as non-jobs. Whereas you want the treatment, you don't want a fella who knows how to work a pen. You want to know a fella how to work a surgical instrument.
Yeah, we never get the kind of full version. They always say it's difficult to recruit here, or there's a shortage or a worldwide shortage of this particular skill or that particular skill. In the past, it wasn't that difficult to attract people. I don't know whether there's any sort of disincentive for clinicians to come to the Isle of Man or consultants to come to the Isle of Man, but something seems to have changed somewhere, Howard.
Well, this is why we elect people for the MHKs, and we have one there now, Claire Christian, and this is one of the serious questions she should be asking. Why are people not or declining to come to the Isle of Man to serve with Manx Care? If you had a company that functioned in a similar way, you'd be wondering what was wrong with that company. And you'd be looking into it to see if it was not making money. We're not expecting the Manx Care to make money, but they're going down all sorts of crazy routes, and they must be sending thousands of people off the island every year.
Yeah.
As I say, I can't fault my wife can't, the hospital, the transport system, the aircraft, everything was looked after all the way through. In fact, we got a couple of days' notice to go away, and I walked down towards Crookall House down there, and within 3 hours, everything was done on the patient transfer.
Yeah.
That was the flights, the taxis, everything. So you can't fault them on that. The system lies within the bureaucratic system, within Noble's Hospital and Manx Care.
As you say, Howard, we're not expecting Manx Care to make a profit. It's not that sort of industry. What we are expecting is extremely efficient use of resources.
Well, that's exactly what it is. If you've got a penny, you don't go out and spend 10 pence. But that's what Manx Care seem to be doing. And all in the wrong direction. They're just throwing money around like a man with no arms. But if you bring more stuff into Noble's Hospital and encourage people to come here, there seems to be a disinclination for people to come to the island. And that is what our ministers are paid to do, is to find out why.
Okay. And
as I say, my wife's got an appointment, and we'll go up there, and the service will be good. There'll be 1, 2, 3, 4 at my count the last time, all involved with this. There was the person that does the injections, the person that does the anesthetics, etc., and they're all very efficient and all very nice. But what in other situations within Manx Care and people going away, fine if they're going away for serious treatment, no problems there, we can't offer everything. But the normal everyday run of the things that, we'll just stick them on a plane, that's it, bang bang, then we put another £20 million claim in, and that's the sad part about it.
Okay, all right, Howard, appreciate it. Oh, by the way, I got a note in from Ruth Kelly this morning.
Yeah.
About
did you? About
the camera obscura is open for Easter.
Good. I'm glad you told me. Yeah, well, we'll look forward to seeing everybody up there.
All right.
Just hope the weather's like this, and that's when it comes into its own.
Fingers crossed. Thanks, Howard.
Okay, take care.
All right, 16 minutes past 12. Have a good weekend. Thanks for that. Yes, this is the story about a need to look at the way patients from the Isle of Man are transferred to the UK for medical treatment. So says Treasury Minister and, of course, GP, Dr. Alex Allenson, who believes some of those being sent across for follow-up appointments could be seen on the Isle of Man instead. I don't know whether you have an opinion about this, or perhaps, as with Howard, you've got personal experience of it, family experience. With work ongoing to ensure Manxcare operates within its budget this financial year, Dr. Allenson says it's an area that is being looked at, i.e. can follow-up appointments be on the Isle of Man?
I think we are making difficult decisions on a daily basis. Healthcare, as the biggest part of government expenditure now, it's even larger than benefits, has had to look at how they prioritise various services and be really realistic that some of the things that we wanted to bring in this year we'll possibly have to defer for next year or the year after. And also we need to have a real look at the way, or particularly we transfer people to the UK for treatments.
That is one of those bizarre things that I think many people would struggle to understand. I mean, why is it that follow-up appointments, why can those not be carried out in the Isle of Man?
They can, but what we need to do is look at reforming some of the processes in healthcare, because this isn't necessarily Manxcare's fault. This is something that they've inherited from the previous department structure. The reality is when people go to see a consultant at Nobles and they're judged to need referral to a specialist in the UK for whatever reason, there's no obvious flagging that that's been done. The person then gets to the UK, and I've heard constituents say, well, I went there and they couldn't access my scans. They did another one while I was there, and then they asked me to come back for the scan results, and then they've carried on seeing me for years, and they're very happy to see me. And then I told them about a rash I had, so they referred me to one of their dermatologists while I was over there. It was great service, but of course all of that is being billed to Manxcare,
and that could be being done potentially. Yeah. Some of that at least could be done on the island.
Yeah, and so the whole idea was to have proper commissioning so that people were only sent across when they had to go across.
That's Dr. Allenson, the Treasury Minister, and again, if you have personal experience about this and it's something you'd like to share, by all means do get in touch. You can hear that full programme, by the way, on Sunday, Perspective with Phil Gaughan and Alex Allenson talking about money, bluntly. Bring UK consultants here. Works a treat. I see one like this every 6 months. This is WhatsApp 244. And surely it must cost less to bring a UK consultant here. Obviously, only if they can fill enough appointments for it to work. And obviously, if the planes fly on time, it will work. Manxcare can't recruit staff as the BMA, the unions, have got a memory. It says, what about 566? What's it about? 566 must know the unions stuff. What's their memory about? Text also just to say this is, I think it's wrong to put a group of older people on a plane so for eye treatment. Surely it's cheaper to bring the doctor over for a 12-hour day. Travelling wipes them. Oops, sorry. No, that's your words are getting jumbled up. Anyway, you think it's wrong to put a group of older people on a plane for eye treatment. And thanks also to lots of messages came in from yesterday, which I'll address some of those. Social media is running the lives of the younger generation. Children don't seem to know how to communicate face-to-face anymore. Children are addicted to social media, says 223, and it's really just going to get worse. Well, as they get older, you think they'll mellow out of this? It was said that if you get the Gen Zs, just see how long they can go without looking at their phone. They have the phone with them all the time, don't they? However, we'll see what happens. This was yesterday talking about the fact that the birth rate is dropping on the Isle of Man. Roughly half the number of babies were born as people died last year on the Isle of Man, although the population continues to grow because of immigration. Yes, women can go to work, but why is it they can't afford to live on one wage? Desmond says, apparently this is what the global elites want. Who are the global elites, Desmond? Who are these people? Name them, would you? They want open borders for immigrants to flood the work market for cheap labour. Where are you talking about, Desmond? Because we do have a work permit system here. Anybody who comes from across and has to have a job, unless they own the company, has to have a work permit. That's the law on the Isle of Man. By the end of 2025, 54% of the world's births will be African. And Africa has the world's youngest population, says John. Where's the information from, John? Just tell me where you get that from. Not just from the internet, is it? It's a special thing, is it? If safe access zones legislation is brought in, they'll need a new wing at the prison. With this law, DHSC won't even have to tell us where the zones are. You can break the law without even knowing you're in a safe access zone. And remember, ignorance of the law is no defence. Thank you for that. 562. And why aren't the patients made to go on the ferry? That would be far cheaper than the plane, says John in Oncombe. Not really going to work, is it, John? Is it? I mean, it's a long enough day. Remember, a lot of the patients, are not well or do have a condition. So if they're going on the boat, having to make their way from the boat, and hoping that there's a bus from the boat to particular hospitals and then waiting all day to get on the boat to come back at night, maybe to get in, 10 o'clock sometimes at night? Would you do it? John, seriously, would you do it? I think recruitment to Manx care is difficult for several reasons. This is 572. It says the state of Manx care, the fact that consultants and doctors' opinion is ignored, things will get more difficult. And if assisted dying is brought in, because many doctors have said they would leave because of this. This is unsigned, by the way. This is anonymous 572. Stick your name on next time. Regardless of the moral issues, they won't stay here and risk their licence to practice. As also the ransom issue, the payment because of that. Why would professionals want to come here? Says 572. Is that an issue, 572? The whole case of Rosalind Ranson. Do you think that affects that? Thanks also to workforce issues are easily solved, says Tony. There's many ready trained staff. We have hotels in the UK full of men waiting to get into our society. Right, okay, and I'm not quite sure where you're going there, Tony. Give us a call, explain it, would you? Not too long ago, Mrs. Cope from Manx Care was a regular visitor to Manx Radio. It's obvious by her absence, says David. We'll invite her in if you like. We'll invite Teresa Cope. So the invitation is always open for Teresa Cope to come on Mannin Line. And Gaz said, a pitiful defence of a heavily redacted school meals report makes me wonder about the bigger secrets being kept from Comin, says Gaz. Well, there was a lot of redaction on that particular school meals report. Quite why there should be redaction on something as innocuous as a school meals report. Well, why do you think so? I think patients should be charged for missing appointments. So, and how much do you think they should be charged? This is John in Oncombe. How much should patients be charged? In Jersey, you have to pay for a GP's appointment. You have to cough up. I mean, John, do you really think we could enforce did not attend DNAs over here? It happens. How much of it happens, we don't really know. What the percentage is of appointments are do not attends, and then if there are genuine reasons for that. But do you think we should charge people who miss appointments, national health appointments? I see visitors for the rally are treating us all with respect, says 30 or more cars through Ballasalla just now, doing at least 50 to 60, not a police officer in sight. John, you're going to have to be a lot more specific than that. Nobody can drive at 50 miles an hour through Ballasalla. I'm telling you, that's impossible. With the amount of traffic going through Ballasalla, And John, if you've got a photo and some evidence, then we'd like to look at it. Otherwise, we'll take that as read. And again, patients should be charged for missing appointments, says this correspondent. If they can enforce parking tickets, they can enforce charging for not showing up. Do they enforce parking tickets, though? Is everybody? You only have to drive around at weekend, John, and see the number of people inconsiderately parked around the Isle of Man, particularly around residential areas, and they don't get nicked. I mean, two different departments, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really correlate. But we work in the building maintenance trade, and this past year have seen a large rise in elderly that have moved here and bought properties. 223 mentioned this to an estate agent friend. He agrees lots of retired people have moved here recently. Will this have a negative effect on our failing health services? Well, that's for the politicians and bureaucrats to sort out. A message in that tells me that I've seen on Facebook that Peter at the Horse Trams is celebrating his 50th year on the Horse Trams. All the best to you, Peter. The main problem about the falling birth rate, this is 867 who messages him, is that people can't afford to have children anymore. It's so expensive to live on the Isle of Man, getting worse week by week, says Alan. Well, some people have children. Quite a lot of people have children. There were 500 plus children born, a little over 10 a week last year. So somebody's having children. Things do cost a lot. There's a difference between something being expensive and something costing a lot of money. Value for money is the important thing. And as many people have said years and years ago, people had children, they just made do. They economised. They had a budget and they stuck to it. Patients should be charged for missing appointments. And also a message just to say that the ferry times don't link up with the hospital appointments. 695 tells me it would mean an overnight stay, so no go. It doesn't really sound well thought out going on the boat for a hospital appointment, quite apart from the fact that people may not be terribly well. And 2 hours on the boat is a lot different to a 40-minute flight. And John Lennon Airport is slightly more comfortable than that new sea terminal of ours in Liverpool, isn't it?
There's monkeys and meerkats, penguins galore. You can meet with a panda, owls, lemurs and more.
The Currachs Wildlife Park is open 7 days a week. So book your tickets and experiences online now at currachswildlifepark.im.
Hi Liz, I see you've had your garage converted. We're desperate for more room.
Yes, come through and have a look. John called Manx Property Conversions. We now have an extra bedroom, but it could be another reception room, kids' playroom or office. They also did our conservatory roof last year. We were so impressed, we got them back to convert the garage.
Wow, I need that. What's their number again?
Call MPC on 450 500. That's 450 500. Or find them on Facebook at Manx Property Conversions.
Do you know, Dave, the Q Plus counter always has just what I need. Whatever plumbing job I'm working on, whether a state-of-the-art bathroom or the latest heating system, Q Plus always help. With extensive supplies, friendly, knowledgeable service and great prices, it really is the one-stop shop for trade and DIY customers alike. And if they don't have what you want in stock, they'll find it for you. See for yourself. Just take a look at Q Plus on Facebook.
Discover the work of the man who could paint the wind at the world's largest exhibition of works by Archibald Knox, right here on display at the Manx Museum, featuring exquisite jewellery, pewterware, paintings, manuscripts and furniture from collections across the British Isles. Visit Knox Order and Beauty every day from 9:30 till 4:30 at the Manx Museum. Discover more Knox-themed events at manxnationalheritage.im.
The Treasury Minister has a lot on his plate at the moment as the impact of Trumpian economics sends shockwaves around the world. An estimated 5% has been knocked off the value of the Isle of Man government's reserves in recent days, so how will that affect Treasury's predictions in this year's budget? Alex Allenson appears unflappable, but is he and his Treasury team doing enough to bring the deficit between government income and expenditure back to more manageable levels? Find out on Perspective Perspective this Sunday at 12 noon on Manx Radio with me, Phil Gaughan. Should we be concerned about public finances? And if they must fiddle while Rome burns, could they at least pick a better tune?
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
29 minutes now before 1. A note from Sue, who just said, you mentioned this guy called John in Onken saying go on the boat. Well, when he and his family get sick, can he insist on going the boat? Thank you, Sue. Can you keep silly people's ideas off the radio? Sue's words, by the way. I've been waiting to see a dermatology appointment on the NHS for years with no joy, so I've had to pay to go private to help my problem. For a 15-minute appointment, £250 and a £65 prescription. That's on top of just paying out over £1,000 on dental treatment to go privately. This is after paying a full NI for 51 years, says Pat. I'm annoyed by this. It's wrong to put a group of older people on a plane for eye treatment. My husband was signed off by his specialist last year and still getting appointments and letters to say he's missed appointments. I rang them more than once. It hasn't worked. We're paying for missed appointments that we don't need, says this correspondent. And a neighbour of ours, at WhatsApp 134, says a neighbour of ours years ago, when called for a cardiology appointment at Nobles, would deliberately not go and see the visiting consultant, who still gets paid regardless. He knew that if he missed it, he'd be called to Broad Green to see the same consultant a week or so later. He always had to travel with his friend who spent a fun-filled day in Liverpool after his appointment, and then was picked up by the Adelphi and flew home with shopping. He did it for years, but always said sorry for missing the appointment. Is that what happens? More thoughts, more to come. And a message in, let me see, this one says, working in pharmacy, a local town chemist, and a huge amount of elderly and high medical need adults or high need children, unable to work parents, are moving to the Isle of Man. Is this true? Is this skeet? I mean, we always hear this. Not only medications, but also supportive feeds on prescription. Sad for them, but terrifying for island taxpayers and our needs. Well, thank you. I appreciate you telling me that, 622. What we need to know is this skeet? Is it just rumour? Is it setting hairs running? Or is this actually happening? And if so, in what numbers? Here's Julian now. Hi, Julian.
Hi, Andy. Last day of the excellent weather, it looks like.
Well, I'm sure it'll be fine next week.
Yeah, probably. We'll. It's nearly summertime.
We'll have an extreme Easter.
Yeah. We spoke briefly about, families and stuff. Another factor that's not being mentioned at the moment, infertility rates and, saddest of all, stillbirth rates. Have they stayed constant? Because they're not being mentioned in these statistics about less children being born.
No, I don't think they go that deeply into the numbers.
Right, yeah, because I would have thought that would have... If there's been a change in that, it would be quite important to know. I noticed on the news before, somebody commented that prices of fuel in America are down. Well, actually, they're not. The crude oil price is 20% down. So at the moment, we're paying roughly around $1.40 per litre. So if you adjust for the smaller US litre at 3.78 litres for the gallon, national price now is 65 pence a litre in the States, across all states. And, of course, you've got extremes. So you've got California. They're the most expensive. They're working out at 99 pence a litre, which is, still quite a lot less than what we're paying. And then you've got Lubbock, Texas at 53p a litre, which is a lot less than we're paying, and I'm still wondering why we're paying so much, because it is a world market apparently, so it makes you wonder why we're still paying so high.
Well, the vast majority of the money goes in tax, doesn't it? It goes in fuel duty and VAT.
Yeah, I mean, they say here that American fuel, 50% in general, accounts for the cost of the gasoline. So half the price of the gasoline is accountable for the cost of the crude oil. So it must be coming down soon, I would have thought, even with the taxes. Other bit of news I noticed to do with energy, Deutsche Bank has downgraded Vestas wind farms, wind turbines. Their share price is now being downgraded to hold from buy, which is yet another thing. I've just been looking at their share price this morning, down again, looking like a cliff as the days go on. So again, if there was the news that the reserves on the island have dropped 5% already, are they linked to renewable energy shares?
Well, you wonder. We don't know. I mean, I know Treasury's got. I think they employ some people. They employ investment consultants in charge of the portfolio to put our investments in the right place. But they seem to work, but we don't quite know. They never tell us that full detail.
No, but the trouble is, it's our money, isn't it? I think we need to know that detail because, there's even Lord Offord in the House of Lords this week was saying that this is getting really serious in terms of what it's going to do to the UK. And if we're going to go down the route of being hitched up to the UK completely through interconnectors, what's that going to do to the prices of the electricity that we pay and all this type of thing? But, if the reserves and the our Isle of Man pension, state pension, is linked to it all, that could be a house of cards.
Well, nobody knows that. I mean, this is hindsight, isn't it? We'll only know in a few years' time whether the decisions that we're making now will make sense, financial sense and common sense. Presumably we employ very clever people to work this out for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think you mentioned yesterday that one of our incomes is from e-gaming. But if the Isle of Man starts to really slide financially, e-gaming, unfortunately, is a very portable kind of business. I mean, they could move operations to the Caymans or Andorra or a whole scutch of places that they might choose to do.
Well, we've always walked that tightrope. I mean, as a low-tax jurisdiction, we're in competition with all sorts of people. Remember, Ireland is a low-tax jurisdiction. Luxembourg is, Switzerland is, Holland is, Liechtenstein is. There are many low-tax jurisdictions, and we have to compete with all of those. What we do have is a good reputation, Julian. That's why the shipping registry and the aircraft registry is a story of unalloyed success. It's been a massive success purely because we run that very well indeed. The guy who started it, Dick Welsh, exactly what he was doing, and so we do things very well. And as a low tax jurisdiction, we can attract worldwide business. Now, again, presumably, we're employing very clever people nowadays to make sure that goes on.
Yeah. Thing is, though, of course, the tax take on all those things. I mean, we're looking it's not quite there yet, but we're looking at Manx Care costing us almost $500 million every year now. So, how much of these businesses can we support? You're talking almost £400 million a year for an island's population that is a town in the UK.
Well, you're now into politics, which is different from the finances of everything. Manx Care has to be bought and paid for. Everything has to be paid for. How we fund that is a political matter, really, and that's for the politicians to sort out. And next year, obviously, with an election in September next year, that will come in close focus.
Yeah, but meanwhile, some of our tax strategies seem to be going in reverse. I mean, as we said yesterday, in the 70s, there were a load of merchant banks and commercial banks that came to the island. But when we started doing things like exchange of information and everything, all the building societies, they literally, and Bank of Ireland, didn't they leave within a year or something of that?
Well,
I seem to remember.
But then again, that was a worldwide initiative, and that was, I think, under Mr. Bell, and it was fairly obvious that there are certain lines that we have to toe, Julian. That there are certain places around the world that you wouldn't really want to be alongside. I mean, certain of the Caribbean jurisdictions aren't as well regulated as ours. So we have to keep a foot in both camps. We have to be a low tax jurisdiction. It's how we make our money. That's the attraction. But we also have to maintain our reputation, and that's important too.
Interestingly, though, I mean, everyone seems to count Switzerland and Liechtenstein as part of Europe, but they're not really. They don't seem to be held to account on a lot of the rules that we are held to account with, and they're doing very well. Last time I looked, Switzerland and Liechtenstein are doing excellent, and so is Andorra. So you've got to. If you look into the depths of the shall we say, the lack of restriction that they use, you've got to wonder, are we towing the line into extinction here?
Well, again, this comes down to politicians and clever people, and I'm in neither camp. So, I like everybody else, am relying on our politicians taking the right decisions and the clever people around making sure that the Isle of Man does well and doesn't slide back. We've done very well since the 1980s, since Sir Miles Walker, since the new form of government. We have had many, many years of growth. We've done well. It's just that we aren't growing as much as we used to.
Yeah, but simple acts on the island, like putting 20-mile-an-hour zones for several miles on a lot of the main roads that we'd normally be doing 30 or whatever. But what's that going to do to businesses? Like, for example, how many driving tests or even driving lessons can be conducted when you're basically forced 24/7 to be following a tractor? In terms of how the way you're going to drive in the future when this goes through is you are following a tractor the length of Colby through Ballabeg. Quite a few of the roads in Douglas that, you're talking about, if you were following a car doing 30 at 20 miles an hour, well, after an hour, they're going to be 10 miles ahead of you, aren't they?
Yeah, but I mean, that's social policy, Julian. That's not financial policy. And, do you think that social policy would, affect finances on the Isle of Man?
Well, if we talk social policy, if let's suppose you've got social care people going around looking after elderly people, if they've got to drive slower, can they fit the same number of people within the working hours of the day?
Yeah. Well, again, hindsight, we don't know. We don't know until it happens.
Well, yeah. So the thing is to try and predict all these things and see what the repercussions are before you institute it. But I'm still waiting to see what the Chief Constable says about the 20, because I thought he had to be consulted, which infers that he has to give the green light. It'd be nice to know what he thinks. Okay. All right. Julian, have a good weekend. We appreciate your call. You too, Andy. Cheers. Thanks for being with us today. Here's Adam now. Hi, Adam.
Hi, Andy. How are you today?
Terrific, thanks. It's a gorgeous day.
It is beautiful. Great news that you're terrific. I'm just ringing up. I'm ringing up about Douglas Corporation.
Yep.
The fact that they have desecrated the town crest. Because what they have done, Andy, if you look at the town crest, on the top left-hand corner we have a Viking ship on the crest, and that represents the North Sea Kings. On the top right-hand corner we have the Derby family's crest. We have an eagle and a child. That is to represent the Derby family, the Earls of Derby, who were for centuries Lords of Man. On the bottom left-hand side of the crest we have the lion rampant of the Atolls, the Duke of Atholl, the Murray family. That is for the Duke of Atholl, who for centuries has been the Murray family up there at Blair Atholl in Scotland. They were Lords of Man. I can't remember if it was before or after the Derbys, Andy, but anyway, the point is, on the bottom right-hand side, there's the three legs of man, Andy, but the point is that on the crest represented is the wards of Douglas, and we used to have Atholl, Victoria, Murray's, Derby and Hills. And I have just described, Andy, on the crest there is the Duke of Atholl's crest, the Murray families, the Derbys, and the Viking ship for the North Sea Kings. So the Kings and Lords of Man, they're on the town crest, and the town wards were named after the Kings and Lords of Man. And the corporation, they went and got rid of the traditional names, which embody so much of Manx culture. They got rid of them and they replaced them with north, south, east and west wards, Andy. Isn't that awful?
Well, obviously you think it's awful. They would probably say it's progress.
No, well, I think it's dreadful, Andy. It's dreadful. And the Crown, Andy, really, the traditions of state really are being forgotten in the Isle of Man, Andy, because the crown on top, on the corporation website, is still Queen Elizabeth's St Edward's crown. And in fact, the crown should now be the Tudor crown for King Charles, Lord of Man. I think he is the second, King Charles II in Man, actually. But the crown should be his crown, and it needs changing, Andy. And what's more, Andy, the plumage on either side of the crest are red and gold for the national colours of the Isle of Man, after the three legs of man, which is of course red and gold. Right. And the Douglas Corporation, when they used to run buses, they were painted red and buttercup yellow being for instead of gold. So they were painted in the national colours. And I think why do they not paint the modern buses in decent bright colours? Why do they not put them in buttercup yellow and red?
I think
instead of having them in...
Yeah, the gunmetal grey. I think that's purely down to cost. I think that's how they come out of the factory, and they'll probably say they're saving money by not. And I agree with you. The old Douglas buses look beautiful. They really were. Primary colours, yellow and red. They look really good, and you could always see them. The grey ones are they're a bit lackluster, but it's probably down to cost, Adam.
It probably is, Andy, but it's tragic because, the grey in the Isle of Man, it's so often grey in the wintertime. It's either misty or it's foggy or it's cloudy, and the sea looks grey sometimes in the wintertime, and it's not a beautiful shade of blue like it is in summer. So you've got, it's so often grey, and my grandma down there on the promenade, she gets the bus back from town to Onken every morning, and she can't see the buses coming because they blend in with all the grey, and they blend in with the hotels. The hotels are all painted grey these days. The hotels and boarding houses, the apartments are all painted grey. Yeah. And why can people not get a decent shade of paint, Andy?
I'll be honest with you,
yellow.
I'm trying to remember. There used to be one hotel on the prom that was two-tone green. Do you remember it? Light green and dark green. It was fantastic.
Light green and dark green, that was the Brighton Bell, I think, Andy.
Oh, was it?
It was the Brighton Bell.
Yeah, I love the fact
very nice hotel it was.
Yeah, the old boarding houses used to be light and dark blue, or pink, or orange sometimes, or amber. They were and there's some
white and dark blue.
Yeah, that's it.
White and dark blue. That was the Midland, Andy. That was the Midland.
My word, you've got a database, haven't you? All right, Adam, it's good to hear from you. Thanks for that. Thanks for calling today.
Nice to hear from you. Take care, Andy. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Before we go on, Mannin Line today, by the way, I have to say farewell to one of our own who passed away last week. I never met this particular announcer at Manx Radio because he was one of the first people to broadcast on Manx Radio in 1964. If you were around 61 years ago, you couldn't have failed to notice a transatlantic voice, because Kris Crookall, Manx, was brought up in Canada, and he came back to the Isle of Man to broadcast on Manx Radio, was there for several years, and then went back to Canada. Kris passed away last week at the age of 85 in Canada. Very, very fondly remembered, and part of our history at Manx Radio in the early days. He was there with John Grierson. He was there with Norman Shaw was there, of course, as well. Peter Neal. John Grierson, and the man who started Manx Radio, Dickie Mayer, Richard Mayer. So we remember, somewhere up there in radio heaven, the man who graced the airways of Manx Radio, sadly no longer with us, and MHK, Tim Crookall's uncle, Kris Crookall, died in Canada last year at the age of 85. R.I.P. Kris Crookall.
Construction waste today.
Tells recycle for another day.
A builder skip or two.
Tells Skips will bring to you.
Need quality Type 1 stone for your building or contracting job? Then contact Tells with no minimum order for collection or delivery. Call 677 137. Visit Tells Limited in Snugborough or find Tells Limited on Facebook.
Skips are what they do.
We're the guys that hire one to you.
Call Tells Skips today.
677 137.
Go al fresco in style with the Lifestyle Furniture Garden and Outdoor Collection. Discover our hand-picked range of gorgeous corner, dining, lounge and bistro sets, plus outdoor bars and fire pits, all with free delivery island-wide. For truly great outdoors, browse online at lifestylefurnitureplus.com or explore the garden and outdoor marquee at our main showroom, Snugborough Trading Estate, Union Mills. Lifestyle Furniture. It's everything your garden's been waiting for.
Iron One Car Centre, the place to go. Great choice and prices so low. Iron One Car Centre on Domain Road. Cars of every kind at prices that are hard to find. Visit on Facebook to see the range or call 611-040. Great service, choice and prices low. Iron One Car Centre, the place to go.
The Isle of Man Creamery presents stress-free food shopping with our doorstep delivery service. In time for breakfast, enjoy fresh milk, cheese, cream, Noah Bakehouse pastries, bread, coffee, juice, eggs and potatoes delivered straight to your door every day. And if that sounds good, we don't charge for island-wide deliveries. Love food and drink delivered super fresh? Sign up and order online today at isleofmancreamery.com.
With just 2 games to go this season, can FC Isle of Man finally find a way out from their recent poor run of form? In their penultimate game of the campaign, the Ravens host Liverpool and Remica this weekend, off of the back of 2 heavy home defeats. Join me, Rob Pritchard and Tony Mepham for FC Isle of Man versus Liverpool and Remica, kicking off at 6 p.m. on Saturday. Manx Radio will be bringing you full live match commentary on our DAB and AM 1368 channels. Live coverage of FC Isle of Man on Manx Radio is supported by Selton, investing in our community.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Luxembourg, Switzerland and Andorra have all signed up to the exchange of information, or the Common Reporting Standard, as has the Isle of Man, says Eugene. Thanks also to regarding plane transport. This is K for appointment. There's no accessible access for wheelchair users. You have to walk onto the aeroplane. This isn't usable. Isn't the Ambilift working anymore, K? I know they did have some issues with the Ambilift, and certainly there was I think they were trying to get an ambulance or a bus out onto the apron so people in wheelchairs didn't have to go through the building. I don't know whether that's happened. I think we should find people who don't turn up for appointments. I'd take their place if offered. I've been waiting a while, like many others. I'm sure there are plenty of people who will be available to turn up at short notice. Yeah, I wonder if there's a standby kind of thing that would happen for that. Douglas Council doesn't run the buses and has no say in the colour. Yeah, we know that. Thank you. He was just hypothesising. The wards were changed to the same as the Keys constituencies, as people were getting confused as to who their representatives were. Well, no doubt. Thank you, 110. No doubt everybody who's interested will be standing. Of course, it's too late now because... Anyway, let's get to the phones. Robert's with us. Hi, Robert.
Hi, just on Netflix Ninja today. There's a new film, expose film called Adolescence. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh, this is the one all about the 13-year-old schoolboy. Is that right?
Well, he's gone with Brunel. He hasn't gone with Hans Fritz, which is good. He's a very smart lad. I'm just watching the first part of the series, but the question I had was, why can't it be made, sorry I'm welling up, why can't it be made in the Isle of Man and Wales, the second series?
Well, we don't have a TV industry or film industry anymore.
Well, they can make it in Wales and transpose it, can't they?
Well, you never know, do you? So are you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's very good. It's not too bad. It's very good at what it does. Apparently, you're supposed to watch the third one first, according to Kermode and McConey. But I don't know how to do that on Netflix. You're probably more intelligent than I am. But I mean, I'm watching it from the first one throughout, and I'll be finished by the end of the day.
All right. Well, good for you. I can't afford a television. You have to tell me all about it. Have a good weekend. Thanks, Robert.
All right, bye.
5-1. Maybe let me see, message in to say, that's right, you can't send people with heart conditions or other serious conditions on the boat, as it costs a lot to turn the boat round if somebody has a heart attack. it's extreme, but we see the point. And a message to say that I have to have my prostate out as I have prostate cancer. If I had to go on the boat because it was last minute for a Sunday operation, and trust me, it was no fun. And when you're in a lot of post-operation pain, being on the boat for hours in the winter is no fun, says Bob. Point taken, Bob. Thanks for that. Wife and I went to Liverpool for a 15-minute chat, which could have been done by a video conference. But I don't have a degree, so what do I know? We asked for such follow-ups like these to be done on the Isle of Man, as they did for earlier on. We could do that. It's the people who attend the WEF. I wasn't invited, so I don't know their names. Thank you. Come on, you must know. Somebody must know who the global elites are. I mean, don't ask me. I enjoyed Sunday Opinion last week regarding green energy at the old Andreas Airfield. Very interesting. Hope it's up and running soon, says Charles. That's available as a listen again. Of course, we got lots of listen again on Manx Radio and hundreds of podcasts. You find out by going to manxradio.com, or if you haven't got the app on your phone or tablet, then get it as soon as you can. Hours. Think of them as cassettes you can listen to. You'll be there for hours. Right, that's it. Enjoy the rally, enjoy the racing at Andreas on Sunday, and have a great weekend. Back with another Open Line Monday. Thanks to Chris on the phones.
WI